Can someone confirm if you are able to see the screen share? Can put that in the chat. Yes, thank you. So welcome everyone to the day 5 of the Data Cloud Bootcamp. I'm so used to say Marketing Cloud Bootcamp. So we have the Data Cloud Bootcamp now. So we are in the day 5 of the bootcamp. So thank you all for continuing the journey with us. And this bootcamp is for everyone who is a beginner in the data cloud, as well as somebody who wants to improve their expertise, add on the skills of the data cloud, and also for someone who wants to clear the data cloud consultant certification. So this is the bootcamp schedule. We have successfully completed the first 4 sessions, and we have covered 2 important portions of the exam. That is the solution overview, which is 18%, and data cloud setup and administration, which is 12%. And we have this week the data ingestion and the data modeling. So this ingestion and modeling covers 20% of the exam. So this is the topic which covers a major part of the exam. So the next 2 sessions are ingestion, modeling, and next week we have identity resolution, which takes 14% of the exam. So these 3 sessions are very important and also covers most of the questions in the exam. So stay focused for these sessions. And after this bootcamp, after we are done with the 12 days of this bootcamp, we have deep dive sessions lined up. So these are the first few sessions that we have already published. So you can register to these as well. So these are the topics that we have finalized so far, and we are still working on adding few more. So along with the deep dive sessions, we also have the build with us hands-on sessions. So Vlad is going to run those, and that will be an opportunity for you all to follow how certain features in the data cloud are implemented or how certain things work in the data cloud. So that will be very detailed. So please stay tuned and make sure you join the user group, the Phoenix user group, so you will get notified of any other events that are published. And we do have swags for each of these series. So for the 12-day bootcamp, on the last day of the bootcamp, we have 3 certification vouchers and 1 swag item for people who are residing in the US. And the same way, we do have these certification vouchers and swag items for the other 2 series as well. A few questions that you may have. All these sessions are recorded, and I will upload them at the earliest possible at the YouTube channel, MC Learning Camp. You can also check this out by searching for the Trailblazing Together. And make sure you join this group to get notified. And any questions during the session, please post them in the chat window. We can address them at the end of the session. And any questions that are not related to the session, keep them to yourself for now. I will be sharing the form for the Ask Me Anything panel. You can fill that form out with your questions, and we can address them at the last session of the bootcamp, which is the 12th day. And any other coordination, we have the Slack channel for that. In the Slack channel, we do have a separate channel dedicated for the data cloud. Make sure that you join that data cloud bootcamp channel as well to get information about this specific bootcamp. So these are the different exam topics and the percentages. So we have finished the solution overview and the VC setup and administration. We're going to look at the data ingestion and modeling and the identity resolution in the next few sessions. So we have data ingestion and modeling for 20%, so which is very important topic. And we do have Eliot presenting today's session, data cloud ingestion. And I really thank Eliot. You may already know Eliot. He is an expert in marketing cloud, and anybody in the marketing cloud space would know Eliot. So he needs no introduction. And Eliot, I really thank you very much for taking time and presenting this session. This means a lot to us. So thank you very much. And with that, Eliot, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to stop the screen share. Elliot, sorry to interrupt. It seems you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you. So thank you for the very kind introduction, and it was a pleasure to to come together and share my knowledge. I really kind of enjoy sharing my kind of expertise with the community. I do want to kind of touch on a couple of points that you made. So firstly, having sat and attained the Data Cloud certification myself, I feel it's one of these where you can't pass just from reading content alone. You really need to have hands-on experience. So I encourage you to get access to Data Cloud. Now, I'm going to go to kind of share a link for those of you, maybe some of you already have access to Data Cloud, as you have the enterprise or kind of unlimited edition of Sales Cloud, and you've got access to Data Cloud as part of that, or you're on the partner program and have access to a Data Cloud org through there. I've been informed, I haven't validated this myself, I believe it to be correct, that the Loyalty Cloud trial includes Data Cloud with it. I think it's a fully functional 30-day trial. I'm going to put a link in the chat window here. So those of you seeking access to kind of Data Cloud, do check that out. And let me know that's incorrect. But I was somewhat reliably informed that it was included. So with that out the way, let's crack on. So I'm just going to go and share my screen.
This is so helpful, Eliot. So we have been trying to figure out how to get the demo on.
Oh, okay.
So we definitely can.
Oh, that's good to know. Share screen. Let's go with this one here. Yeah, so yeah, here we are. So firstly, thank you, JB, for that very kind introduction. A bit about myself, as JB mentioned, my expertise has for many years been in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, written a few books on Marketing Cloud, and working with the platform for the past 11 years. More recently, I've, say in the past couple of years, I've changed my focus and attention to Data Cloud. I kind of recognize that this is a very strategically important platform for Salesforce, and has kind of significant implications for customers, and really kind of starts to unlock more kind of value for Salesforce customers, and we can kind of unpack that. So I've actually worked on a couple of Data Cloud implementations for clients at the moment, and really kind of enjoying the journey. I must say that before we get into this, if you haven't already figured this out yet, I mean, my key observation that it's a very different platform from the other Salesforce clouds. And many assume that, oh, kind of Data Cloud, this is just another cloud, right? So we've got Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Financial Services Cloud, Health Cloud, and no, it's completely different. It's not like an industry cloud at all, or core platform, but it uses different data models and quite a different architecture. And it came with a bit of a steep learning curve, I have to say. But I'm just continually impressed how powerful the platform is, and the level of investment that Salesforce put into developing the platform, what has a kind of an aggressive roadmap. We see, of course, just in the recent release this month, some significant new features, particularly around financial services cloud integration and much more. So gosh, what else about me? It's my a bit about resume. I'm also a Salesforce MVP Hall of Fame member, so it's kind of a privilege to be inducted into the lofty heights of the Hall of Fame program, so which you attain after being a Salesforce MVP for 5 consecutive years. So I have to kind of, I believe I have to include this. I'm including it for good measure anyway. And this is, of course, the Salesforce forward-looking statement that I need to remind you that Salesforce is a publicly traded company, and you need to base your purchasing decisions on products or services that are already available. A bit of a tongue twister. All of the kind of features that we'll be talking about today are available, but just to cover myself, I included that. So I thought we'll just start with this slide here. For those of you, for the benefit of those who maybe you missed the previous sessions or still on day 5, really don't understand what Data Cloud is. I thought it's helpful to give a quick recap. So, Data Cloud is this purpose-built platform that enables organizations to connect all of their customer data at scale. So whether your data resides perhaps in the mobile app, in a data lake, or a data warehouse, a Salesforce platform, or something else, maybe it's user interactions on your website. Data Cloud provides the ability to ingest data from all these multiple sources, either as a batch process or in real time. And then it harmonizes this data into the structured canonical data model and applies reconciliation rules to unify these individual records to a single profile which adapts to a customer's activity and behavior. And so once we have all this harmonized data, we can analyze and segment and operationalize or activate the data to automate experiences across Salesforce products. So that could be maybe injecting a contact into a Marketing Cloud journey, or perhaps even converting a lead in Sales Cloud, or creating a case in Service Cloud. So Data Cloud really can fulfill all of these use cases, from marketing, sales, and service automation use cases. But today, obviously, we're going to be focusing on ingestion part of Data Cloud. So before we can go and harmonize and unify and segment and activate data in the platform, we need to go and get all that data, bring it all together and into the platform in one form and another. Now, Data Cloud is actually really designed with ingestion in mind, and that it's highly versatile and provides actually a very broad range of different methods and techniques that you can use to connect and bring your data into the platform that we're going to be discussing today. And so, why is that actually important? Kind of who cares? Well, organizational data, I mean, it can reside anywhere. You can have customer data in a data lake. It could be sitting in a data warehouse. Maybe it's based on website events and visits to your website. It could be orders from an e-commerce platform, your email engagement data from the marketing platform, and much more. And the problem that we have today is that companies have gargantuan volumes of customer data at their disposal, which is kind of due in part to reduction in storage costs. I mean, we're talking like billions of records. And as I'm sure kind of you well know, Salesforce Core and other platforms such as Marketing Cloud really kind of aren't designed or never designed to go and store and process a voluminous data. I mean, you can't go and store, hundreds of millions of records in kind of a Salesforce object. Not only is it cost prohibitive, but it's just not designed to do that. You can't run reports on this data. And so Data Cloud is really designed with this in mind. And the net result of having all this data is that organizations today are spending around a third of their IT budget on integrations alone. So naturally, they're looking at ways to integrate and ingest data securely and seamlessly, and more importantly, at enterprise scale. And Data Cloud offers this by having a number of out of the box connectors and APIs and SDKs, which we're going to explore this afternoon or this evening, depending on which time zone you're in today, or perhaps even this morning, maybe for those of you who are in India. So let me kind of talk about this a bit further. So Data Cloud is built on a data lake house, which merges the benefits of a data lake for storing voluminous data and a data warehouse. And it's built to go and virtually scale and ingest and process data at scale. So let me break this down a bit and have a look at these 4 swim lanes we see here. So with Data Cloud, you can firstly connect to a data source. So you see all these kind of connection points and the arrows pointing into the kind of batch and stream. Then we can bring the data, these data sources in either as a real-time streaming or a batch process. Next, we can go and stage this data. We can see in this kind of a middle layer here. And at that time, you can make some minor adjustments through applying formulas. And then the next stage is to go and prepare the data and make major adjustments through transforming your data. And then finally, we can go and unify and harmonize that data. So this kind of stage flow is effectively what's referred to as a medallion architecture. That is, we've got kind of a bronze, silver, and gold tiers, and we're going to discuss this in a bit more detail shortly. So, before we get on to ingestion, I apologize if this has previously been covered, and it may well have, but I think it's kind of an important to recap and make sure you understand some of the core fundamentals and concepts in the platform. So I'll touch on this briefly. So as we know that there are many Salesforce products are built on a common core platform that uses the same database architecture, like Sales and Service Cloud and Health Cloud, Financial Services Cloud is slightly different, but Data Cloud uses a very different architecture and technology stack to other Salesforce platforms, where data is actually processed in a linear type fashion. So the first data layer that we see on the left-hand side in this blue box is the data source. And the data source really represents a platform or a system where your data originates from. So, a data source might be like a Salesforce platform, like Marketing Cloud or Sales Cloud. It could be an object storage platform or data lake, like Amazon S3 or Google Cloud Storage and others. It could be maybe based on programmatic content, that is using APIs and SDKs to load data from maybe websites and mobile apps and other systems, and so on. So then we move on to a data stream that we see again on the left-hand side in this object shaped down on the left. And a data stream is effectively an entity that can be extracted from a data source. So it could be perhaps orders from Commerce Cloud, or maybe it'll be contacts from Sales Cloud. And once a data source is connected to Data Cloud, then data streams provide path to the respective entity. Data streams are then moving on to ingested into a data source object, or DSO. So a DSO provides a physical staging data store that contains the actual data in this raw file format as it's ingested into the platform. And as I mentioned previously, at this stage, minor transformations can be applied through formulas. Next, we have the data lake object, or DLO. And this is the first object that's available for inspection and enables users to prepare their data by mapping fields and applying additional transformations. And that's really kind of the basic flow of how data is ingested into Data Cloud. This will be kind of unpacked kind of further in the next session on modeling. And actually, important to mention, we now actually have quite a recent edition. I believe this came in, it was certainly in October, actually. It came in earlier last year, this notion of a data space. We see this big rectangle on the right-hand side. And think of a data space as essentially a partition where you can go and separate data sets within an organization. Perhaps it's based on geography or kind of office location, or maybe the environment, like having a staging environment and production environment. I guess for those of you with Marketing Cloud experience, think of them as, perhaps similar to the partitioning that data extensions, the business units provide to partition data and more. So we touched on this notion of a medallion architecture, which I actually think is quite helpful. Let me go and I'll explain that in a moment. But I'll talk about an additional object, and that's a DMO, or data model object, we see in gold on the right-hand side here. So, here's the diagram with a slightly different layout and kind of a lot more detail. This is kind of a good reference source for you. And of course, we'll share this deck with you after. So unlike data source objects and data lake objects, which use a physical data store, a data model object enables a virtual non-materialized view into the data lakehouse. And the net result from running a query with the object isn't stored anywhere. It's completely dynamic. So what we ultimately end up with is this, I mentioned before, a medallion architecture. Now, a medallion architecture is in data architecture, it's a popular data design pattern used to logically organize data within a data lakehouse with a goal of incrementally and progressively improving the structure and quality of the data as it flows through each separate layer of the architecture, from bronze to silver to gold layer that we see here. Now, look, I've given a very high-level explanation of the platform's data model, and there are many more concepts to understand, but I think knowing how this data is, what happens at time of ingestion and how it's ultimately activated, will provide some more context to data ingestion that we're going to be talking about today. I've also authored an ebook which goes into a lot more detail on these concepts and others in the platform. And I'll share a link to that ebook at the end of the presentation in the chat window, so you can go and download that. So let's talk about data sources. So data sources in the platform are ingested into or connected to the platform in different ways. And each of these different data sources have specific requirements and steps where an administrator goes and configures in the platform prior to creating a data stream. So we can see all of the different data sources available in the tiles on this data stream user interface. And this is actually kind of expanded somewhat. There's now, for example, Marketing Cloud Account Engagement, which is kind of a recent addition, kind of formerly Pardot. But these are kind of certainly some of the more popular ones. And we're going to be exploring each of these data sources in more detail today. So firstly, let's talk about the Marketing Cloud Connector. So the Marketing Cloud Connector for Data Cloud is a native connector that enables users to import engagement data from any channel in Marketing Cloud. Additionally, you can also import data from your own data extensions. Now, at this point, I think it's important to pause and point out that there are intentional limits on how many data extensions you can ingest and also the number of records you can import, which are very generous, I hasten to add. I think kind of from memory, like 100 million records in a data extension. But these limits are very intentional. Let me explain why. So for those of you kind of with Marketing Cloud experience, and as I said, I've kind of a strong affection for Marketing Cloud, and that's kind of where I started in my Salesforce journey. You've got, in order to use data in the platform, you have to go so in order to do anything in the platform, in fact, you have to get data into it, and to do that, use Automation Studio, which enables you to perform ETL or extract, transform, and load processes, and ingest data from multiple sources. It could be files from SFTP or kind of more recently, kind of Amazon S3. And I guess it could be tempting to data cloud users. It's like, oh gosh, well, we can go and bring all our data in through Marketing Cloud and treat it as some kind of intermediate ETL tool to pre-process, and let's go and transform our data in Marketing Cloud because it's what we know, right? Before we import it into the data cloud. However, it's well, I mean, technically you can do that. It's really not regarded as best practice. In fact, it's best practice to move data directly to data cloud, or this could perhaps be via an intermediary stage like a cloud storage object, and we'll talk about that shortly. But when you want to preserve data lineage, and so please try and avoid this integration pattern wherever possible of pre-processing data through data cloud. I guess where data extensions would come into play, perhaps where we've got a cloud page and we want to go and on that cloud page is a form, and we want to go and take this form-based data and make that available in data cloud. And that's certainly a good use case for it. So This connector also includes what are called starter data bundles. And I'll talk about that in a second. These are included for Email Studio, Mobile Connect, Mobile Push, and more recently, WhatsApp channels. And they provide kind of an insight or kind of point into these standard data views and in the platform to go and get that engagement data out, and includes or kind of channel mappings to the data model in Data Cloud. So these starter data bundles, and I'll be talking about this more in the next slides. So let me explain what they are if you're unaware. That these are kind of pre-built or predefined data stream definitions by Salesforce that include mappings from a given data source, that is a known data source, such as these kind of marketing cloud channels, to the Data Cloud DMO, or data model object structure. And they can also be customized, and some connectors actually offer multiple data bundle options. But they definitely provide kind of a good starting point and designed to take a lot of kind of the guesswork out of what categories you should be assigning when you go and set up your data sources. And we'll be talking about categories later today. And as I mentioned earlier, and this isn't in this deck, but more recently, there's also a connector to Marketing Cloud Account Engagement. Before, it was a bit of a kind of clumsy workflow to go and get that what was Pardot data into Data Cloud. So next, I'll kind of briefly touch on this. Did I skip one? Oh, yeah, I did. So CRM, more importantly. So similar to Marketing Cloud, Data Cloud also offers a native connector to ingest data directly from standard and custom objects in Sales Cloud. And like Marketing Cloud, this connector also offers bundles specifically for sales, service, and loyalty use cases. So when you connect CRM data using this connector, it moves that data in three distinct cycles. So the first cycle loads the entire data set. So think of it as kind of similar to synchronized data extensions in Marketing Cloud. And then the second cycle is hourly refreshes just on deltas, that is upserted records. And then every week we'll go and do a full refresh. More recently, kind of in the current release, I don't know if you read the release notes for Financial Services Cloud, as I mentioned before, also has a connector and some through an unmanaged package and some very kind of deep integration, and there's some new DLOs to go and support objects and in Financial Services Cloud. So next is Commerce Cloud. So again, another native connector, again with a bundle, which enables ingestion of order, customer, and catalog data from Commerce Cloud, completely out of the box. So data bundles are available for B2B, B2C, and I think there's another one for order management. So moving on to probably my favorite topic, and that's programmatic content, starting with SDKs. And there are a couple of different SDKs available. The first is the Web SDK. So these kind of SDK, well, the data sources that I've discussed so far are really based on a batch process. That is where they import either all records at a full refresh or deltas, that is upserted records at a scheduled frequency or cadence. However, there are a few different options for ingesting data from different platforms in real time. And the first are a couple of SDKs, or software development kits. The first one is the Web SDK, also referred to as the Salesforce Interactions SDK. And this enables developers to go and capture interactions for both known and pseudo-anonymous website visitors, and then store these web events in Data Cloud. So, in turn, you can go and use this data to go and build behavioral profiles and audience segmentation by tracking how the individuals are interacting with content on your website. So the SDK is implemented by loading a client-side script on the source website, or kind of a beacon, a JavaScript, which provides various methods to send event payloads across to Data Cloud in real time. And there are a number of different data types that can be captured in Data Cloud using the SDK, kind of 3 in fact. There's profile data, like for an individual, like user identity, phone, and email. You can capture e-commerce data, like cart and cart items, also orders and product catalog entries. And thirdly, consent tracking. So this is to capture when a user provides consent. So the SDK will only send events if the user has actually consented to tracking. You're probably used to clicking those annoying accept all kind of consent and cookie tracking that pops up on websites. So that's built with that in mind. So for those of you who with Salesforce Interaction Studio and now Marketing Cloud personalization experience, you might have kind of picked up on this Salesforce Interactions SDK in that it was and is created for Marketing Cloud personalization to track first-party cookie website data through this JavaScript beacon. However, the SDK actually provides a much broader, extensible data capture and collection framework that includes product-specific modules for both Marketing Cloud personalization and Data Cloud. So I want to stress here that Marketing Cloud personalization is not required in order to capture website behavior in Data Cloud using this SDK. So you don't have, it's not a prerequisite. You can use this SDK without personalization. Now, the mobile SDK is another method for streaming data in near real time. I'll talk about near real time in a moment. The SDK is actually formerly known as the Marketing Cloud Mobile SDK, which is used to send in-app messaging and inbox push messaging and location-based messaging to mobile apps using Marketing Cloud Mobile Push. But similar to the Interactions SDK, the Engagement Mobile SDK has also been extended to include a Data Cloud module, which enables, again, profile, e-commerce, and consent data events that are supported by the SDK to be tracked in Data Cloud, in addition to mobile messaging and app-related behavioral events. This mobile engagement SDK is available for both iOS and Android platforms, and you don't need to have mobile push integration enabled in Marketing Cloud in order to use it. And I want to touch on kind of real time. There seems to be a lot of confusion or kind of misinformation about kind of this real time assumption. When I say real time, it's more near real time. Like when, what does that mean? Well, rather than at that exact point, data is processed shortly after. It's much like I've automated my house through kind of automated light switches. I can control them on the phone. If I flick a light switch on the wall, that's real time, right? The light switch is on or it switches off. If I do it through maybe the Philips Hue app on my phone, there's some latency. It's relatively small. It's in the case like maybe half a second to a second, but that's near real time. This is the same kind of concept where so with Data Cloud, profile data from the Interactions SDK, or that's the web or mobile SDK, can take up to 2 minutes to be ingested into and harmonized into the platform. And engagement data is every 15 minutes a process runs to ingest that data. which generally is very few use cases would you actually need to have that data immediately. So yeah, that's kind of near real time. So next, personalization. So for customers who are using Marketing Cloud personalization from an Interaction Studio, then enabled through the sitemap, you can actually easily ingest profile and event data into the platform, at different intervals depending on the data type. And you can actually also activate data from Data Cloud back out to personalization, right, to go and power web campaigns and drive experiences there. So another ingestion option. So the next ingestion option I want to touch on is Amazon S3. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with S3, it's a cloud storage system provided by Amazon Web Services, or AWS. Essentially, think of it as, so do it on my phone. I'll say a meeting. Essentially, it's a data lake for enterprises, and it's think kind of where you can store kind of files in their raw file format on a like I think kind of a Dropbox or Google Drive, kind of an enterprise scale. And this S3 connector is actually quite straightforward to implement. I mean, there are some kind of hoops you have to jump through and set up OAuth credentials and bucket policies, which you ideally require some prior experience in working with S3 buckets. And you have to do this each time for each data source, but the process is actually very well documented. So next, we've also got a GCS, or Google Cloud Storage. So this is similar to, I guess, S3. It's a cloud storage solution from Google as part of the Google Cloud Platform. And then the connector works in a very similar way. But the main difference is that with GCS, the credentials only need to be defined once instead of for each bucket, as I mentioned earlier. And then you just reference subdirectories for each stream. So it's actually quite straightforward to set up. And then we've got ingestion APIs. And I actually noticed, I made a note of this. I think there's a Aditya on day 4 after this course is going to be exploring ingestion APIs in more detail, but they're certainly part of the ingestion process. And I think it's important to explain them, and then you can learn more about those in the other scheduled session. So where am I going? So ingestion API. So there are various out-of-the-box connectors that enable, I guess, declarative style integration methods to Data Cloud. So they don't require any custom development. You can really just do it using click-snort code and configure these connectors. But with Data Cloud, there are several scenarios when data could be required to be programmatically loaded into the platform, either in near real time or perhaps as a batch process. And the Data Cloud ingestion APIs fulfill these requirements through supporting both streaming and bulk data imports through a streaming API and a bulk ingestion API, respectively. So let's talk about the key differences between each of these two APIs. So firstly, on the left-hand side, using the streaming APIs, so developers can build a JSON formatted payload which aligns to the data schema defined in the deployed data stream. So this API typically follows a what I call a fire and forget approach, where a response is immediately returned by the platform, and the imported data is processed asynchronously. That is, by the platform in near real time, approximately actually every 3 minutes. And this API is best suited for small batches of records, not exceeding 200 kilobytes. I guess typical use cases would include maybe say a visitor signs up on a website and this triggers a database change. Maybe you've got an order fulfillment platform where you've got a change to the order or shipment status changes. Maybe there's a website chatbot conversation which has been initiated by a website visitor. Or I don't know, perhaps it could be there's been a hotel or travel purchase completed on some online booking platform. All of these are these kind of micro batches are a good use case for the Ingestion API. On the other side, the batch API, also known as the bulk ingestion API, enables large data sets to be created, updated, or deleted in the platform, where CSV files with a file size up to 150 megabytes and 100 files per job can be imported. So this, for any of you with Sales Cloud expertise, the API actually follows a very similar multi-step process to the Salesforce bulk API, where a job is first programmatically created, then CSV data is uploaded to the job, then the job is closed, and then the uploaded data is on queued for processing. And this API is really best suited for transferring large amounts of data at a regular interval, like daily or weekly. So kind of maybe possible use cases, and maybe take a sip of water. I'm so dehydrated. Possible use cases include daily customer transactional data from maybe a financial service provider. Maybe you're bringing in point of sale data generated from in-store customer transactions at the end of the day. Maybe this is customer loyalty status or points balances are being imported at a regular interval from a loyalty management system, or subscriber engagement data from a third-party messaging platform. But maybe you're using something else other than Marketing Cloud. These kind of scenarios are all kind of great use cases for the batch API. So just going back to this, so with both the streaming API and also the batch API, data is processed asynchronously approximately every 3 minutes. Look, it's actually every 2 minutes, but there's some latency depending on how data volume and how busy the scheduler is. So it can take additional time until the data is committed to storage and available for consumption, which I've kind of why they kind of rounded to 3 minutes. So other ingestion option into Data Cloud is MuleSoft. So for those of you unaware that MuleSoft, there are a couple of different platforms in kind of the product portfolio, but one is MuleSoft Anypoint. And this is an integration platform that enables API integration across different databases, different SaaS platforms, storage resources, network services, and more through hundreds of pre-built connectors. And the MuleSoft Anypoint connector for Data Cloud enables data to be ingested from these Anypoint connectors, either as a streaming or bulk process. Additionally, the connector can also be used to publish insights from Data Cloud into upstream platforms. So it kind of provides this kind of clicks not code approach, and more of a Zapier style integration, if any of you are familiar with that platform. Yes, it would just really opens up a kind of a world of opportunities for people with a kind of a broader technology stack and want to integrate their platform to Data Cloud through what is effectively an event service bus using MuleSoft as the middleware. Now, I stole this slide, and I kind of borrowed a lot of kind of content from this from Salesforce, but I do like this one. Arvind Raman from the Salesforce Partner Enablement team, I think, is being given or will give some presentations on this boot camp. I saw his name pop up a few times. He's put together this cheat sheet, which I actually find really helpful as a quick reference to understand how and when data is ingested by the platform. I want to stress that these kind of cadences are on the move and are changing quite regularly. So I encourage you to go and visit the Salesforce help documentation, and you can just Google data cloud limits or data cloud, just data cloud limits, and you can get a very lengthy kind of comprehensive list of kind of the latest and greatest cadences, and very thoroughly documented. I'll just mention kind of this notion of a look back window here. So this refers to a look back window as a sample data set, which is used by the out-of-the-box connectors initially to establish data types, that is to determine what the data type is that you're mapping into it. So if you've got data which isn't within this kind of look back window, then you need to do a kind of custom integration rather than using the connector. Kind of one of the endpoints, then we've got some time for questions, I think, are categories. And I assume that this will be covered in more detail next in the next session on modeling. But it's really part of the ingestion process. I think it's important to mention it here. So when you go and create a data stream in the platform, at that point you must go and select a category or type of data used by that data stream. And that can be one of three things, as we see here. It can be profile, engagement, or other. And correct category assignment is important as it cannot be changed after the data stream is created. So it becomes very hard to undo. I was having a look at someone shared their look at their implementation with me, and they just assigned everything as other, which is kind of a bad idea, or can be a bad idea for a few different reasons, which I'll explain. So firstly, categories are assigned to DMOs or data model objects and are inherited from the first data lake object that's mapped to it. So where the DMO will only allow mapping of the same DLO category that was first assigned to it. And while categories are, can you just hang on 1 second? I think there's just some commotion outside. Oh gosh, I've got just want to say, I do apologize. I've just had a massive delivery outside. We're just going to take a pause for 30 seconds. 1 second, please.
So
It's okay. So my wife, sorry. So go on, JB.
No, I just wanted to say, Eliot, that for the ingestion itself, there are many ways that we can ingest the data into the data cloud. It could be coming from different streams. So we do have detailed sessions in the detailed sessions. I just wanted to use that time and announce that. Please go ahead, Eliot. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. So thank you. Yes, you've got a kind of in-depth session. This is really kind of making sure that you're crossing across what options are available, which you need to know to obtain that data cloud certification. You're not going to be quizzed on how to go and configure an S3 bucket, but certainly need to kind of understand what the ingestion options are and kind of batch versus streaming. But one question which I can almost guarantee will come up in the certification exam is data cloud categories. So ensure you kind of understand that it's important to get that category mapping right. So categories are generally chosen by the user, although there are some exceptions, like the individual DMO always uses the profile category as it's really designed to store profile data. Additionally, when using Salesforce connectors, like from Sales Cloud and Marketing Clouds, that they actually enforce default mappings or category assignments that can't be changed. But on this slide here, we see some examples of different data categories. So, for profile data, it could be maybe a user device or kind of their contact information, engagement data. Maybe they've downloaded some gated content on your website. Maybe there's a website visit. They've logged in, they placed an order, raised a case, maybe even signed up for a webinar or kind of completed a form and so on. And then other talks about other things that really aren't profile or event based, like products, for example, and so on. Now, no, the one in the center, I'll talk about this. Engagement data is actually just by its nature very voluminous. You know, there's a lot of every user interaction could be a data event, and as a result, this needs to be optimized and indexed through on the back end. It's a very elegant architecture of a kind of a hot store and kind of cold store database, so that you can retrieve this data very, very quickly. And the platform looks at smaller windows of engagement to really, I guess, ensure that your data stays performant. So as a result, it's important to identify which data sets are time bound, and you'd use those for engagement data. So again, that should be covered a bit in more detail next. So that kind of concludes everything I want to cover about ingestion. I will go mention that that ebook that I've got to go and find it now, Cloud, that you can go and download. So it's a kind of comprehensive ebook where I've attempted to kind of explain all of the concepts that are still at a relatively high level, but in a digestible format. And it covers ingestion in detail and other concepts that you need to understand. And of course, will be covered throughout the duration of this course. But it's free. So let me go and get the chat window, and I'll put this down here. There we go.
Thanks for the bonus gift.
Sure. Okay, it's all right. Yeah.
And
there's some questions streaming in, so I'm just going to go and stop this share, and feel free to
I'm going to read that.
Moderate those. Thank you.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
So can the data cloud host the API, or it has to be hosted outside, like Marketing Cloud?
I'm not quite sure. When you say host the API, so it's can the data cloud host the API? The API is provided by the platform, and it's really designed just like Marketing Cloud for an external integration. It's not. I guess it's not like Lightning Web Components or kind of or Visual Force. Although of course you can build and customize the interface using Lightning Web Components, but it provides external integration. I just not to be honest, I'm not quite sure I understand the question. The question is it just like Marketing Cloud? The answer is yes, it is.
Yeah, that answers Eliot. And Bruno, if you have any follow-up question, please elaborate that in the chat. Sure. Or you can add that to the Ask Me Anything form. I have another question, Eliot, that is connecting to the Oracle or MS SQL, SQL. So any option, if you want to connect to those, how do we do that?
Yeah, so there's no native ODBC connector to SQL. I mean, the platform uses kind of you define transformations and calculated insights, in fact, using ANSI SQL. But to connect to a SQL database, there are two options. Firstly, if you're using a data warehouse such as Snowflake, or more recently Databricks, and Salesforce will announce, I think, support for 3 or 4 others this year. That is cloud-based database platforms. They offer a zero-copy architecture, very, very elegant architecture, where you can, rather than duplicating the data, it kind of exposes in data cloud in real time. But to connect to, let's say I've got a Microsoft SQL server, and you have to go and have a process to go and extract that data, maybe move it to an S3 bucket, kind of a cloud storage object, and then import it in that way. It's not like I don't know, maybe you're thinking of external objects and the way they work in Sales Cloud. It's there's not that same kind of philosophy. You have to either import the data as kind of in a raw file format, in a CSV and Parquet file format, and then ingest it through a DLO and transform it and then onto a DMO, or yeah, use one of these copy architectures for supported platforms.
That helps, Eliot. Thank you. And any questions you have, please post in the chat. We do have a few more minutes. And the next question, Eliot, is regarding the mapping to the case object. So if there is a bunch of unstructured data, example can be the notes or the description field or the case object. So how does Data Cloud handle it to do a sentiment analysis as an example?
Hey, look, I encourage you to, it's going to be covered in more detail in the next session. I believe it looks like Vlad is down to do that now. And I don't want to steal his thunder, but there's a mapping process where you go and take those data source attributes or fields and map them to a corresponding standard or custom field in the data lake object. So yeah, you go through a kind of a mapping exercise, and it's probably it's hard to explain without visualizing it, and I assume it's going to be kind of more hands-on on the next session. So if you could reserve your re-ask the question then, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so that's going to be covered in the next session.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eliot. And if anyone wants to know the detailed process to connect to ingest any of these data, we do have the detailed sessions lined up. So in those sessions, we will cover in detail along with the detailed demo.
There is one question I saw is there regarding like limitations, and I really encourage all customers to go and closely examine this document, which displays all the kind of limitations and guidelines and the cadence and how many records per data streams. But it's important by before starting any kind of integration architecture that you start here. Additionally, I'd like to go and share another freebie, if I may. I'm sure you're not going to say, no, I don't think it's available as downloaded content, but it looks like I can upload a file here. So I think there's a bit of a bonus. I've prepared another worksheet, which I have at my fingertips. Where is the, maybe it's downloads. I just Data Cloud workbook. Here we go. So this is I wrote recently. Salesforce actually has something I would say similar but not as good. So you can Google. I think there's a Data Cloud interactive workbook. This one, however, goes into a lot more detail. And when starting to think about ingestion, it's important to look at your entire it's to evaluate your entire architecture, kind of the I've just had a mental blank. All your different databases and SaaS platforms and storage resources, everything that's used within your organization or your customer's organization, and do a comprehensive audit of the system landscape. Look, the word's been staring at me. So it's important to go for this exercise and also to see what integration platforms they already have in order to identify what ingestion options you may want to use. In fact, the way to approach an implementation, and perhaps this will become more clear in future sessions, is that, as Vlad actually helpfully told me, you start with the end in mind. Have a look at your use cases, understand what you want to use Data Cloud for, and then, well, identify what data do we need to use to enable those use cases, and kind of work right back to the data source of where does that data reside. But let me go and share this document with you that will give some kind of thought starters and some different use cases for working with activations and data actions and other topics that will be covered on this bootcamp. So upload file from your computer's grayed out, but what I can probably do, I can go and let me go and chuck it in Drive, and I'm just going to go and stop sharing.
Yeah,
and
or
make it
you
available.
can share it with me. I can link it to the slide deck.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, nice. Let me go and just take me a second just to upload this while other questions are. Thinking about other questions. Data Cloud Workbook. There we go. And yeah, I'll just go and click on the Drive link now, and it's probably gonna click here, click Drive, and let's do a three-legged OAuth handshake, which is done. And yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, not misbehaving. I'll go and send that to you, maybe, JB. Probably easier if I email it to you so you can share it across. It's gonna work.
And
Right.
this is the message from Bruno, and it is from all of us. I'm reading that on behalf of him. So from someone who has seen many hours of your videos. That's right. We learn Marketing Cloud through you. Just want to say thank you for what you do for the Marketing Cloud community, Eliot.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
And anything that comes new, you will be the first one to share more in-depth insights on that. It was about the AMP for email that we learned, and Einstein features or any other new features that comes out. So you are the person who explores it and ready to share that with the community. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Yeah, I like to try and stay on top of these things. Well, we got some actually, I don't want to kind of steal the kind of excitement, but some exciting new announcements due next month. I suspect at TDX will come out of that, specifically related to data and Marketing Cloud. So yeah, look out for those announcements, but I'll hopefully be able to kind of have time to unpack those.
I got a hint of it. I'm so eager to see that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Eliot. And everyone will be sharing the recording and the slide deck soon. Thank you very much for joining us today and staying back. We will have the next session, data modeling, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you all again. Thank you and take care. Thanks, Eliot.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye. Thanks.